Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on the Listen Up Girl podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randall Friedman. Today's episode is one of those where you almost have to pause between stories and ask yourself, is this real life? Because we are covering everything from taxpayer-funded Olympic security trips and culture war legislation to drag bans, book bans, public health rollbacks, and yes, a man who now believes headphones are turning people gay. That's right, a man who says that headphones are turning people gay. We're also talking about accountability, resilience, resistance, from trans Kansas filing lawsuits within hours of losing their legal documents to Brandi Carlile raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for families impacted by immigration enforcement. So let's get right into it. Our first story is FBI director's $75,000 security trip. Let's start with the director, Kash Patel, is reportedly under scrutiny after spending $75,000 in taxpayer money to fly to Milan, allegedly under the guise of providing security at the Winter Olympics. But according to the reports, the trip was largely consisted of spending time drinking beer with the U.S. men's hockey team. While questions surfaced about the cost and necessity of the trip, Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, attempted to redirect the conversation, not towards financial transparency, but towards what she claimed were Democratic efforts to fund research into transgender mice. She argued that Americans should be more concerned about research spending than about taxpayer-funded travel. The problem? The framing around transgender mice has been repeatedly debunked and mischaracterized. The scientific studies in question involve medical research into hormone treatments and reproductive health, not social identity experiments on rodents. This is a familiar pattern in today's political climate: shift attention from a concrete allegation, in this case spending $75,000 in public funds, toward a culture war talking point designed to inflame outrage. Meanwhile, Americans are asking a very basic question: was this an appropriate use of taxpayer money? I would say probably not. Next, it's Robert Garcia versus Nancy Mace. Over in Congress, tensions were following a closed-door deposition involving former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and discussions surrounded the Epstein files. Representative Nancy Mace claimed that Clinton was screaming and unhinged during the testimony, but out-gay Representative Robert Garcia of California publicly pushed back, essentially accusing Mace of misrepresenting what happened. Mace commented she was screaming, she was unhinged, quickly making this a headline. Garcia, however, suggested that the characterization was exaggerated and politically motivated. This moment reflects a broader trend in congressional politics. Dramatic claims make immediately after closed-door proceedings, often without corroboration, shaping media narratives before the facts are fully verified. In an era of instant social media amplification, perception outruns documentation. Next, we go to Kansas, where trans Kansans are suing over documentation revocation. In Kansas, transgender residents moved swiftly after a new law invalidated changes to gender markers on official documents, including driver's license and birth certificates. The legislation, passed over Democratic Governor Laura Kelly's veto, requires transgender Kansans to surrender updated licenses or face penalties and misdemeanor charges. Within hours, lawsuits were filed, seeking to block the law from taking effect. Legal experts say the case could hinge on equal protection arguments and administrative overreach. For trans Kansans, the issue isn't abstract. Identification documents affect everything: employment verification, travel, voting, housing applications. Without accurate IDs, daily life becomes exponentially more complicated. Next, we have demonic evil comments in anti-trans bill. Missouri Representative Bob Onder escalated rhetoric even further this week. Representative Bob Onder referred to transgender people as demonic evil and asked Christians to pray for protection from what he called a transgender cult. He recently introduced a bill aimed at making it easier to sue healthcare providers who offer gender-affirming care. The comments were made on a podcast run by the Family Research Council, a group designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center as an anti-LGBTQ plus hate group. The language here matters. When elected officials describe a marginalized group as supernatural or dehumanizing terms, it has ripple effects socially and legally. How do they get to this? How do we get to this place? I just don't understand. Next, trans drag ban. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Texas drag ban can go into effect starting March 18th. The court held that the plaintiffs lacked standing because of their performances were not significantly sexual under the law's wording. Critics argue that the law's vagueness creates a chilling effect, while performers, venues, and even pride events may self-censor out the fear of persecution. Supporters argues it protects children from explicit content. The legal fight may not be over, but for now, the ban proceeds. Next in Nevada Trans Sports Initiative. In Nevada, a ballot initiative seeking to ban transgender student athletes from girls' sports advanced after a judge dismissed a challenge to the referendum. Governor Joe Lombardo has become the public face of the measure, which would categorize sports participation strictly by assigned sex at birth. The issue continues to dominate state-level politics nationwide, even though participation numbers of transgender student athletes remain extremely small. Before I continue with the news, I want to tell you that I was out to dinner with friends a few weeks ago, and somehow we got on the topic of monthly expenses. You know, rent, subscriptions, streaming services, gym memberships, we swear we're going to use. And then someone said, "What's everyone paying for their phone?" The numbers started going around the table, and when I realized I was paying the most, and not by a little, and the worst part, I didn't even have a good reason. I wasn't on some special VIP plan. I wasn't getting anything extra. I was just loyal. Loyal to the company that absolutely did nothing for me and doesn't even know that I exist. That was the moment. I went home. I did about 15 minutes of research, and I switched to Mint Mobile. And here's what's wild. My service didn't change. I had the same coverage, the same speed, unlimited talks, text, and data. My phone still works perfectly. The only difference, my bill drop. Mint whole thing is simple. Premium wireless without the inflated price tag. No retail stores, no long-term contracts, no nonsense fees hiding in fine print. You can bring your own phone. Right now they're offering 50% off 3, 6, or 12-month unlimited premium plans. You can bring your own phone, keep your number, activate the eSIM card in minutes. It's honestly easier than ordering takeout. And if you're nervous about trying something new, they've got a 7-day money-back guarantee. Customer satisfaction ratings are in the mid-90s. People switch and they do not go back. So next time you're sitting around with friends comparing bills, make sure you're not the one overpaying for no reason. Because loyalty is cute, overpaying isn't. Ready to stop paying more for what you have to? New customers can make the switch today and for a limited time get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/listenup. That's mintmobile.com/listenup. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for a 12-month plan required. That's $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when networks are busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com. And we continue with the news with Grace Jones and the Melania documentary. On a cultural note, Grace Jones remains iconic. Producer Mark Beckham revealed that Jones refused to allow Amazon's Melania documentary to use her music, citing political concerns. Sometimes protest doesn't come in the form of a speech. Sometimes it's simply refusing to license your art. You go, Grace Jones. Next, headphones turning people gay. Now, for perhaps the most surreal story of the week, a Dutch study analyzed potentially toxic chemicals in headphone materials, warning about long-term endocrine disruption risk. MAGA influencer Ian Miles Chong misinterpreted the findings to claim that headphones are making men gay. The study did not conclude this at all. His post received millions of views, prompting widespread mockery online. This happens when complex scientific research collides with culture war narratives. nuisance disappears. Next, we go to Brandi Carlile, where she raises $600,000. Lesbian singer-songwriter Brandi Carlile raised $600,000 at a Minneapolis benefit concert to support families affected by ICE enforcement. It's a reminder that in the midst of policy battles, communities are organizing tangible support. Good for you, Brandi. We appreciate that. Next, New Hampshire's Charlie Act. The New Hampshire House passed House Bill 1792, nicknamed the Charlie Bill. The bill would prohibit what it describes as an indoctrination around race, LGBTQ+ issues, and systematic oppression in public schools. Teachers could face credential loss, and individuals could sue school districts for up to $10,000 per violation. Supporters say it protects students from ideological bias. Opponents argue it suppresses academic freedom and honest discussions of history. The bill heads to the Senate next. Our next story, H.R. 7661 and book restrictions. Representative Mary Miller introduced H.R. 7661, aiming to block federal funds from supporting what she calls sexually oriented material, through framed as protecting children from strippers in schools, which evidence does not show happening. Let me say that again. Through framed as protecting children from strippers in schools, which evidence does not show happening. Miller cited LGBTQ+ exclusive books such as Gender, Queer, and All Boys Aren't Blue. The bill applies to elementary and middle schools. Critics argue it broadens censorships while conflating identity representation with explicit content. Our next story is Colton Underwood Reflects. Colton Underwood, during the Traders Reunion, addressed past controversies, including stalking allegations from his Bachelor-era relationship. He described that period as one of the shame and mental health struggles prior to coming out publicly. For many LGBTQ+ viewers, the moment wasn't about reality drama, it was about accountability and growth. Public reckoning is messy, but ownership matters. And our last story is Florida HIV medication cuts. Florida's Department of Health enacted an emergency rule restricting eligibility for AIDS drug assistance program. Income eligibility dropped from 400% of the federal poverty level to 130%, and coverage of key medications was reduced. Advocates warned that treatment interruptions could increase viral load and transmission rates. In a state with high new HIV diagnosis, critics are calling it a public crisis. Legal challenges are already underway. Today's stories span politics, public health, culture wars, celebrity accountability, and community resilience. What connects them isn't controversy, it's power. Who holds it? Who challenges it? And who pays the price when policies shift overnight? If you found this episode helpful, informative, or just clarifying in a chaotic news cycle, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a deeper breakdown of what's actually happening. I'm Zach Friedman. Thanks for listening. Stay informed, stay grounded, and I'll talk to you tomorrow with more LGBTQ+ news. Thanks for listening.